Hello, hello. Happy Thursday. Nancy Sawyer here. I am your coach that helps you to master midlife. I am here for Life Coach University for Let's Coach 2023. I'm excited to be here with you today on this beautiful Thursday where I am. It's a gorgeous day outside. I hope that you're well. And I just want to let you know how this works in case you have not been here with me before. We have a couple of options here for your coaching today. If you would like to come up and be coached one-on-one, all you have to do is hit that raise hand button in the bottom of your screen. If you raise your hand, then I'll know that someone is doing that. And hang on one second. And then I can bring you up on screen and you can come on camera or not. It's up to you. And if you prefer, if it's easier for you, you can just put something in the Q&A. You can put in a comment, a question, whatever you're bringing with you today to this shared space. I am excited to be here with you. And if you've been here with me before, you know, a lot of times I like to take a deep breath and exhale out all the stuff that's going on out there and over there and in here, right? So that we can sit and be very present in this space together. I am a coach who helps people to master midlife. What does that mean? Well, there's lots of things that happen in midlife and that can happen in midlife, whether it's divorce or relationship breakups, becoming an empty nester, losing a parent. Sometimes we just realize we're at a certain age and we had gone to college and we got a career and we got to a certain space and things start to be, we start to notice maybe we're not as happy as we thought. Sometimes people call it a midlife crisis, which I don't believe is a crisis at all. I believe at midlife, sometimes there's an awakening. There's sometimes we get to a space where we realize we've lived most of our life trying to please others. We've become people pleasers because that's how we're raised, is to please our parents, to please our teachers, to please everyone around us. And sometimes we do that so well, and we actually abandon ourselves in the process. And we realize we have an awakening where we wake up and we say, I'm not happy. Maybe we even have all the things. Maybe we have a nice home and nice cars and a great career and children and dogs and pets and whatever it is, right? We may have all the things that we feel should make us happy, but we realize we are not happy. And so in order to untangle that, what we have to do is start getting curious. We have to start becoming aware of what we're feeling. We have to start paying attention to how we are living our life and start really rediscovering who we are at our core. When we were young, happy children, before we got all the shoulds and you have to do it this way and you have to do this and you have to do that, before all that got piled on top of us. So in some ways, it's a peeling back of the layers. There's a lot of unlearning that happens in order to understand what's happening for us and how to find our true happiness and fulfillment. So that's what I help people to do. And I'm actually in a space today where what's coming up for me, there's so much coming up for me today. It's been a very busy time emotionally and life-wise for me. So it's June 1st today where I am. And so I have a senior, high school senior, and my daughter is going through all the things, all the proms and graduation, and she's a dancer. So we have final dance performances and dress rehearsals and tech week and all this stuff going on. And I also have a very dear friend whose parent just passed away last night, as a matter of fact, who had been sick and had been brought home to hospice. And so I've been supporting that dear friend, and the person who passed away is also a dear, very dear friend of mine as well. So there's my own grief I'm dealing with, and I'm also trying to be supportive of my friend who is even closer to that. It's also this year, the 10-year anniversary of since I lost my mom. And so for many reasons, that grief and those feelings are coming back to me, and I'm experiencing all that again. So it's very interesting as we go through life, how certain things just come up. And one thing I've been working hard at is being present with all of those feelings and allowing that, allowing myself to be human, allowing myself to experience the things. Sometimes this stuff gets in the way. We feel like these emotions get in the way. We have so much to do, right? We have things to do for work. We have things to do for home, for the children. And sometimes that self-care piece kind of gets shoved aside. So what I have been very aware of lately is all that other stuff. It's all going to still be there after you're done feeling your emotion. It's important to feel the emotions and release them so that we can be present, and so that we can get through all the things we need to get through. And when we bottle things up and we don't feel the emotions, what happens is we bottle and bottle and bottle, we keep it down and we shove it down. And then what happens when we do that is sometimes it takes just the slightest little thing for us to explode. And we either burst into tears, or we yell at someone, or we react in an inappropriate way to something. And you sit there and you're like, wait, what just happened? And when you take a couple of steps back, sometimes you realize that you've been bottling up emotions for a while. Maybe there's been some turmoil in your life or some things going on. And if you're not properly experiencing and releasing those emotions, it will come out at some point, and possibly at a very inconvenient time. So just something to be aware of as you're going through any time of life, whether midlife or other times. When things happen, it's important to experience them and to be present for all that's coming up. Okay. That's what self-care is. That's a big part of self-care. It's giving yourself what you need in the moment. And whether that's, again, a day off, an afternoon off, an hour off, 10 minutes outside, whatever it is that you need, and that is possible within your frame of what's going on in your life, but finding something to give yourself something. And this leads me back around to the topic that I had in mind for today. And again, I'm going to remind you, if you have a question or a comment, or you're bringing something with you today that's on your mind, I am glad to address that. And you can put something in the Q&A, and I'll be glad to talk with you about that. Or you could raise your hand. I can bring you up here as on screen, either with your camera on or off, and we can have a chat one-on-one. So it's up to you. So I was going to talk today about compromise. And in any type of relationship and in many situations, we are required to compromise. We don't always get things our way, the exact way we want it. So if this is this happens in relationships, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. It also happens in parent-child relationships. It also happens in coworker relationships. If you work on a team of people and are working on a project, maybe you have an idea and someone else has another idea, and you have to compromise to figure out what's going to work, right? To figure out what's the best way to do this so that everyone can have their say. And excuse me, my phone is ringing. I apologize. Someone very close to me did pass away last night, so my phone's been pretty busy today. So as I was thinking about compromising, what we want to pay attention to is how to compromise well. What does that mean? It means understanding that, yes, we can't always get everything we want, but how can we go into any negotiation, if you will, with the attitude of a win-win? How can we get a win-win here? We want both parties to win. We want everyone to feel that they're getting something that they want, that makes them happy, that makes them successful and feel honored, right? Sometimes there are relationships. Again, when I say relationship, I'm using that in a very broad sense. That can be husband, wife, that can be parent, child, that can be co-working spaces or friends. So in a broad sense of relationships, there can be relationships where one person does all the compromising. And I just invite you to think about that. Are you in any types of experiences where you feel you're always the one compromising? Or are you in a space where you're always the one who gets their way? Is there someone else who's often compromising around you? When we're going into a negotiation and we're talking about compromising, something I want you to keep in mind is, how can you compromise without abandoning your values? Do you ever feel that you have compromised so much that you've abandoned yourself, that you're not getting anything out of certain things? This has been on my mind, is where is that line from when you're compromising and saying, okay, I'll do it this way. Okay, I won't do that. Okay, we'll do it this way. And at what point do you get to a place where you say, wait a second, this is too much compromise. This is beyond what I want for myself. And sometimes that line gets really blurry. I am working with a couple of clients right now who are in marital relationships, and they're starting to ask themselves those questions. You know, I'm compromising, I'm doing all the things to keep my spouse happy, but I'm doing so much of that I'm no longer happy. So as you're going into any type of relationship and you are compromising, negotiating, ask yourself, is this in alignment with who I am? Is this something that I can agree to? Or is this too much? This is where the people pleasing comes in, right? Sometimes, all right, so just take me. I don't really like going to the movies. So, but I know a lot of people do. So people say, hey, you want to get together? Let's go to the movies. Sometimes every once in a while I'll be like, yeah, I'll go. But if I'm around someone and they always want to go to the movies, I'm only going to say yes a couple times. If I find that I'm going to the movies every week for 5 weeks in a row, I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm doing this because that's what you want to do. What about what I want to do? Right? At some point, there has to be the give and take, right? And there has to be the give from both parties. So I just invite you to consider, where in your life are you compromising? And are you comfortable with that compromise? Compromise is not a negative word. This is how we get along. This is how we take two individuals and put them together to work together towards something. And are we being respectful of the other person as we're compromising? Are we being respectful, not asking for too much and not giving too much? Again, seeking the win-win. The other thing to keep in mind with all of this, as I say often, there are different seasons of life. So if you are in perhaps a long-term relationship, there's ebb and flow, right? Things in life are rarely straight line. Okay. We seek that, and that's always good to try and get, but they rarely are. So know that there will be seasons where perhaps one of the parties is compromising more because of a certain season of life or season of time. When I say season, it may mean, so again, you've heard me, if you've been on with me over the past couple of months, this is a very busy season of life for me with my graduating senior. There's a lot of just end of schooling things that are going on. And so right now there are a lot of things that I'm putting on the back burner, that I'm putting aside, that I just can't get to right now. And even though that's something that is a little bit frustrating to me, I know that this is a temporary season. Right now, things are super busy. So there are certain things I just cannot fit into my schedule right now. That doesn't mean I don't care about them or won't pick them up once things slow down. But know that in all relationships and everything, like even work and things, we have seasons of busyness where all the stuff we can't get done, right? So it also comes into priorities. What are your priorities? And this is why it always goes back to when I call intentional living intentionally, and what I teach in my intentional living course, which is it's very important to know your values. What do you value? And how do you want to show up to life? What is important to you? For me, some of those things are in integrity. I value peace and calm. I don't like chaos. I don't like too much going on. I'm an introvert. I love nature. I love things to be smooth sailing, calm, peaceful. What that requires in order for me to create that in my life is for me to be organized, to plan well, and to not say yes to too many things. So I have to have up strong boundaries. And I've really had to reel in my tendency to be a people pleaser. I have to say no to invitations, because when there's too much going on, my head gets all crazy. So I know this about myself. It has taken me a long time to learn this about myself, to become aware of this, and to accept this about myself. To understand that I show up as a great version of me when I give myself what I need. So this self-discovery piece is very important as you are compromising, as you are having any type of relationship, as you are making the choices in your life. We want to bring it way back down. What do I value? What are my priorities? And then as we're making decisions, choices, compromises, we ask ourselves, is this in alignment with what I value, with who I want to be? And again, one of my biggest priorities is to be a great mom, and to be a mom that's very present for my children. And I am in the thick of it right now. Every day there's new stuff and there's so much going on every weekend, every night. And there are times when I sit here and I say, oh, geez, I can't do another thing. And then I say, but these are related to my daughter and her graduating. And this is a season of life. And my priority is to be a great mom and to be present for my daughter in these milestones, during these milestones. And so I remind myself of that is one of my biggest priorities. And that allows me to get through it, if you will, to get through the busyness. Because like I said, I don't like being busy. I don't like having too much going on. But right now in this season, I don't have a choice about that. Because I want to show up as a great mom, I'm saying yes to more than I would normally say yes to, because these events are once in a lifetime events. And I want to be there, want to be present for them. And I'm enjoying them. I see a question here. This says, sometimes I struggle with priorities. Do you have a tip on how to rank them? Some days everything feels like a priority, so nothing gets prioritized. Whew, I totally feel that. Yes. So how do you rank them? Well, again, what you're going to do is figure out what your priorities are. And then I would say, how do we rank them? I think that for me, I have probably 3 top priorities. So I would say rank them 1, 2, 3. What are your top 3? And then again, when you look at the list of all the things to do, I would say, as you look at that list, which task or which thing on the list is going to get you the most impact in the least amount of time, right? Because we're all overburdened. There's too many things to do. There's too much to do in a day, right? So which item on your list takes the least amount of time and will get you the most impact, the most bang for your buck, if you will, right? I'm reading a book called Time Warrior right now by Stephen Chandler. And one thing that he mentions is about, he says he does a 3-minute rule when he's overwhelmed, when there's too much to do. He says, I say to myself, okay, what can I do in 3 minutes? What can I get done in 3 minutes? And he picks something and then he just starts banging it out. And sometimes the thing he picks isn't something that can be done in 3 minutes, but he shifts his brain to say, what can I do in the next, what can I accomplish in the next 3 minutes? And by having such a short window of time, it allows him to get started and just start banging something out. And then after 3 minutes, like, you're into it. And so you want to finish that thing. The other thing that I've taken away from that book that has been very powerful for me is about, I just lost it. I just totally lost it. But it was very powerful. It really was. What did he teach me? I'm sorry, just pause for a second. My brain's a little fried today. I just completely lost my train of thought. I apologize for that. So the 3-minute rule, what was I saying? The 3-minute rule. What can I do in 3 minutes? Yeah, I completely lost it. I apologize. But yeah, I mean, it's hard with priorities because when everything's a priority. So what are your most important priorities? Is it a financial something? Is it self-care? Is it a relationship related thing? Like, at the end of the day, like, this is what I've learned over the past few years. Most of the things we worry about and stress about are not things that actually matter at the end of the day. And I can say this confidently right now, again, after just having experienced losing someone, right? At the end of the day, what is the most important thing in life? And I feel that it's to be connected to other humans, to share our love, to share our kindness, to let others know that they are loved. And all the rest of it, it's all just riffraff. All the achievements and the money and the houses and the jobs and the thing, it's all just like this craziness. So if you take it way, way down, very, very simply, what is the most important thing in life? You know, if everything else collapsed, like most of the things that we stress about and worry about, they are material things. They're tangible things. And I think about this all the time, you know, and I know people who have, you know, you could have a house fire and everything is gone. But if you're still alive, I hope you are. If your family is still alive, it's like, at least we have each other. Like, at the end of the day, if all of these material things were taken away, what are the things that actually matter? And when we can get very clear on that to ourselves, by the way, these things are going to be different for everybody. When we focus on that, then we can say, how much of this actually really matters? So these are difficult questions. You know, am I spending time on the right priorities? Time is the only thing we have that we can't buy more of. We can't replace it. So what are you spending your time on? Is it doing things that bring you joy, make you happy, make the people you love happy? And sometimes we find that we're just doing too much. We're juggling too much. And so sometimes the answer is to start moving towards doing less, simplifying our life. And sometimes the priority becomes saying no more. Sometimes the priority must be to put systems in place to make things a little bit smoother. Sometimes the priority might be to hire something out so we're not doing so much ourselves. So take a look at all the things when you have too much to do, when you don't know how to prioritize, take a look at all you're doing and ask, am I expecting too much of myself? Am I doing more? Am I trying to do more than is really possible for one human being with a 24-hour day? And, who also would like to eat and sleep and get some time off. Something to think about. Here is a comment. Simplifying and prioritizing space to allow for better relationship is huge. I haven't thought about that. One thing I love about your talk is your authenticity. Thank you for showing up as you do. Your vulnerability and willingness to share really helps me to see perspective in my own life as well. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think simplifying, and this happens to me a lot. It's like I have too much to do. I don't have enough time. And instead of just trying to push through and waiting for everything to completely crumble and fall away until I juggling all the things until you drop it all, I start to ask myself, what am I doing that actually matters? And how many things am I doing that actually don't really matter? What am I taking on that I don't have to do? You see, our society really celebrates being busy and being so busy and juggling all these things. And I would love to see the conversation change on that. I would love to see people say, oh, I have an afternoon free. I take every Thursday off. Again, you've heard me say before, maybe. I have a friend who every Friday is her boundary day. It's her boundary day off. And so she schedules nothing on Fridays for herself. And she wakes up and she just does whatever she wants, whether it's lunch with a friend, going to yoga class, working on something that she's working on a project, walking the beach, whatever she does. But every Friday is her boundary day off. She's a very centered human being and lovely. And I think that is such a beautiful gift that she gives to herself. And so I encourage you to consider that. And maybe you don't have a whole day. Maybe it's an afternoon. Maybe it's even just an hour, whatever it is. Where can you start? How can you start? Giving yourself that time. And at first, when you do that, it can feel very uncomfortable. When you're like, wait, I have nothing to do. How can I have nothing to do? It feels very uncomfortable. But the more you do it, the better it feels. And then you start to realize how freeing and incredible it is. So I encourage you to try that. All right, we are at time. I hope this has been helpful for you today as you go through life. And as where are you compromising too much, where you're not getting your needs met? Are there places in your life? I don't know. Are you asking for too much compromise from someone else? Are there places where you might be doing that and not honoring the other person? Just things to ask yourself, questions to ponder. Make sure that you are honoring yourself and your needs and creating a life that you absolutely love waking up to, the one that you deserve, right? All right. You have a great rest of your day. This has been Let's Coach 2023. I'll be here next Thursday. I'm here every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. I am Nancy Sawyer, and you can find me at nancybsawyer.com. I hope to see you again next week. Thanks for joining me.